We got Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin going on the road to Athens, Georgia. I am so excited for this game, man. Last week, we saw Georgia beat Missouri. I don't think it was a clean win by Georgia. There definitely were some things that kind of concerns me in this game if I was a Bulldogs fan, because you're going up against the best offense that you've seen all season, and you're not going to face an offense as good as Ole Miss for the rest of the season, even when you do play Tennessee and when you make it to the SEC championship game potentially. Ole Miss, this offense is legit. Jackson Dart has been playing some really good football as of late. He's done a good job of taking care of the football. He also is really good when he decides to tuck and run. So you're going up against a true dual threat quarterback. You got an Ole Miss offense that has a lot of talent at wide receiver. They're super deep at that position. You're going up against Quinshon Judkins, one of the best running backs in all of college football. This could potentially be a ball game. I don't think that Georgia is going to run away with this game. I think that this game is going to be pretty close. Because when I look at Georgia's secondary, and I know a lot of Bulldogs fans get mad at me when I talk about the secondary, but I don't think this secondary is all that great. Last week against Missouri, Brady Cook and these Missouri receivers were killing Georgia's secondary anytime they went back shoulder. Anytime Brady Cook and these receivers attempted a back shoulder throw, it was money nearly every single time. Now, the secondary isn't dog water. Like, the secondary isn't garbage. This is definitely still a really solid and respectable secondary. But Georgia's secondary hasn't played at the level this season that we've been accustomed to seeing the past couple of seasons. And with how potent this Ole Miss passing attack is, you definitely, if you're a Rebels fan, feel really confident about your ability to throw the football on this Georgia defense. This also is a offense that has a really good ground game. And Missouri had a good amount of success running the football against Georgia last week. Missouri's running back, Cody Schrader, ran for 112 yards. He was averaging 5.1 yards per pop, and he had a touchdown. And let's not forget when Auburn nearly beat Georgia, and they ran for damn near 200. And you're going up against a mobile quarterback with a really good rushing attack and a really good running back to go along with it. Ole Miss offense should be able to put some points up. Not even some points. They should be able to put up a good amount of offense and a good amount of points on this Georgia defense. Now, if you're a Georgia fan, you're probably going to counter down and say, well, JT, the last time Ole Miss faced a defense that was halfway as good as ours, Alabama, they got shut down. They got held to 10 points, and you're right about that. But was that really Alabama's defense being not good? Or is that Ole Miss offense just having an off day? You look at what Missouri did to you last week. Why can't Ole Miss have that same performance and then some? And it's not like Missouri's offense was going crazy or anything like that. But Jackson Dart is a better quarterback than what Brady Cook is. And the key to beating Georgia is you got to have two things. You got to have great quarterback play, which Jackson Dart has showed this season, and you got to have an elite group of wide receivers, which Ole Miss has. Georgia's defense, anytime they go up against a team that has a lot of depth and talent at wide receiver that matches up with what they have in the secondary, they tend to struggle. Good example, when they went up against Ohio State in the semifinals last year. And I'm not comparing this year's Ole Miss team to last year's Ohio State team, but I do think when you look at what Ole Miss has at wide receiver and quarterback, it gives them a really good chance to walk away with the win in this game. I have a lot of confidence in Jackson Dart and Lane Kiffin's offense. The only concern of mine is this offensive line and how Ole Miss performs on third down. They have a terrible third down offense, and their offensive line, when it comes to pass blocking, is not that great. And we know that even though this Georgia defensive line, hasn't been as stout as what it's been the past 2 years, it's still a really good defensive line. They were able to get after Brady Cook last week. Ole Miss, they're going to have to find a way to win this game without giving up major losses when it comes to sacks. You're going to have to find a way to win on first and second down, which is easier said than done. If you get put in a third down situation on this Georgia defense, you definitely like Georgia's chances to be able to get off the field. Missouri, they were able to find a way to somewhat stay competitive against Georgia. Even though there wasn't really too many moments during last week's game that Georgia-Missouri played where it felt like Georgia was in major trouble, it really was because Brady Cook wasn't able to be accurate. He wasn't able to make good decisions with the football. Jackson Dart is a way better quarterback than Brady Cook. And if Ole Miss is going to be able to win this game, they're going to need him to have a big-time performance, which I definitely think he has the ability to do so. I don't think Georgia's secondary has been that great. They didn't look good against Vanderbilt. They didn't really look all that great last week, in my opinion, against Missouri. Now, they may not have been as bad as what I initially thought rewatching the game, but Missouri was able to get a couple of big plays here and there, especially when they decided to throw those back shoulder throws. And with the talent that Ole Miss has at wideout and quarterback, you mean to tell me that you don't think they could have a better offensive display than what Missouri had? Especially with them having a guy like Quishon Judkins in the backfield, one of the best running backs in this conference, averaging nearly 5 yards per attempt and has 12 touchdowns on the season. Now, what gives me a lot of reason to be concerned about Ole Miss' ability to give Georgia their first loss of the season is this damn defense. I don't trust Pete Golden's defense. And I'm pretty sure a lot of Georgia fans are writing that in the comment section right now. Like, okay, JT, you talked enough about Ole Miss offense. We get it. Ole Miss has a really good offense. But even against Georgia's defense, I'm having a hard time seeing Ole Miss going up and down the field every single possession against a Georgia Bulldogs defense. Georgia's defense is going to come away with a couple of stops, and they may come away with a turnover or two. Ole Miss defensively, if you're Pete Golding, can you find a way to get Carson Beck and company off the field? I don't know. When they beat LSU, that was a high-scoring affair. That game damn near could have put up 1,000 yards of offense, and it could have resulted in 100-plus points being scored. If Ole Miss can't find a way to get off the field defensively, then I think Georgia's going to go up and down the field on them. The only good thing about Ole Miss defense, surprisingly, is the fact that they got one of the best pass rushes in all of college football. They are really good when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback. They got multiple guys up front and at the linebacker position that can do it and at a really high level. And we saw last week, Georgia's offensive line at times struggle with the defensive line of Missouri. And Missouri has a really good defensive front. But Ole Miss, their defensive front, maybe even better when it comes to their ability to generate consistent pressure on the quarterback. Your only problem that if you're Ole Miss, is your run defense going to be able to slow down Georgia's rushing attack? Georgia is a truly balanced football team. They play complementary football. They don't need to rely on just one trick to beat you. They can beat you throwing the football, and they can beat you running that thing up your face through the middle. If Ole Miss can't find a way to get Georgia in third and long situations, in obvious passing situations, I don't think it's going to vote well for them. And I just, to be honest with you, don't really trust their defense all that much. I'm not a really big fan of Pete Golding. Like, is the defense better than what it was last year? Yeah, but not by that much. They're 73 in passing yards per game allowed, so they don't really have a great secondary. Their run defense is middle of the pack. If you're Kirby Smart and you're Georgia's offensive coordinator and Carson Beck, you're licking your lips right now. You're licking your chops because you think that this is a game where you damn near could put up 40 or 50 on this defense. I'm taking Georgia to win this game. I love Ole Miss offense, and I do believe that this is going to be the most points that Georgia's defense gives up all this season to this offense because I believe that it's that good. But Ole Miss doesn't have a defense. And regardless of how good I believe Ole Miss offense is, the only way that they really can win this game is if they score nearly every possession. Because I don't see Ole Miss defense being able to get too many stops on this Georgia offense. They don't have a great secondary. They got a great pass rush, but they don't really have that great of a run defense. Like, I trust Georgia's defense to get way more stops in this game than I trust Ole Miss. And that's why I got to go with the Bulldogs. I'm taking Georgia to win. Final score, 42-28. Maybe 31 at most. But you got to remember that Georgia's playing at home. It's really tough to beat Georgia at home. And although they haven't been the same dominant team at home this year that they've been in the past, this is still a really tough place to win at. The crowd noise definitely is going to be a factor. I like the Bulldogs to win. If Ole Miss had a way better defense, they probably win this game. But Georgia's defense is still good enough that it's going to get a couple of stops, even though they're going up against a really good offense. And Georgia's defense isn't bad. Let me make that clear. I'm not making it seem like Georgia's defense is awful. It's just that with how they match up against Ole Miss offense, they say styles make fights. And the key to being able to have success on Georgia's defense is having good quarterback play and a good group of wide receivers, which Ole Miss has. It's just that I don't think Ole Miss is up to par up front. And you also got to have a good offensive line. And plus, your defense also has to have the ability to get off the field, which I don't think Ole Miss is going to be able to get off the field too often on defense unless they can find a way to get Georgia in obvious passing situations. That's why I'm taking the Bulldogs.